Kratom.
Our first invited guest speaker today is Abel Trivino. Abel entered the United States Marine Corps in 1999, achieved the rank of Staff Sergeant, yet continued his career thereafter. And so I wanted to speak with Abel today to talk a little bit about what led him into the Corps and also what he's done since. Abel, welcome.
Thanks, great to be here. Man, why did I join the Marine Corps? I grew up in the 80s, watching guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme, all those really cool guys. So I'm from Lubbock, Texas. So not a big town, nothing ever happened. Never even knew anybody that joined the military. Nobody in my family. So I always thought, everybody in the military was bigger than life, almost like dirt. So I just never gave it any second thought, never kept up with it. And then fast forward a few years, I was dating this girl who ended up being my wife, not my ex-wife. So I was standing outside her apartment. We were arguing back and forth, and this guy walks by, and he's like, "Hey, you ever thought about joining the Marine Corps?" And I'd look at her, and then she was like, so I was like, "Yep, I'll do it. Where do I sign?" So that's how I joined the Marine Corps. I didn't know what the military was. I didn't. Nothing. It wasn't until like a few days later that I was talking to a buddy of mine. I told him, "Yeah, I actually enlisted in the Marine Corps." He's like, "Dude, that's the hardest branch." And I was like, what did I do to myself? So yeah, I went to hauled off. I did the delayed entry program. Went to San Diego to boot camp. It was my first time out of Texas. Didn't know anything. I remember I saw my first aircraft carrier, and instantly I was like, "Wow, I didn't know these kind of things existed." Like, it was just enormous. So did really well in boot camp. While going back a little bit, I enlisted as a radio operator. I didn't want to do the whole front lines, grunt stuff and things like that. I just wanted to do my time, get out. I didn't know what I wanted to do after that. So I go to boot camp, did really well, and then end up going to my first MOS school. And at the school, they were, all the other kids were getting, or I should say Marines, all the other Marines were getting really cool duty stations. Like, they were sending guys to Japan, to Hawaii, to Miramar. And then they called out my name, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna get a good duty station. Here we go." And I remember the instructor was like, "You're going to 29 Palms," and I was like, "No." Like 29 Palms. 29 Palms, why? So I ended up in an infantry battalion, Victor 37, right? So, I was there. September 11th happened, things like that. I ended up, going to Iraq, and then. So the whole time I'm there, I'm like, what? This isn't really what I signed up for. Man, I just want to work in air traffic control tower, like my recruiter told me. So. I got done there, and then I got orders to 3rd Marine Division, the comm company. So I go there, and I'm like, okay, finally, I get to sit at a desk. I don't have to do anything. And then one of my gunnies came to me. He's like, "Hey, we're sending on a JTF to the Philippines." So we attached to soft units, went to Holo. We're doing ops against a couple of bad guys over there. So I was like, "Man, okay, this isn't what I signed up for. I want to work in air traffic control tower like my recruiter told me." So came back from that, and then they told me, "Hey, we're starting up these units that they did away with back in 1999 called Anglico." So they said, "You're going to this school." So I ended up going to Anglico, to the ABC course, the Anglico Basic course, and then graduated really, really high in the class. So ended up doing the whole grunt thing again, ended up back overseas a few more times. And then fast forward from that for a little bit, and then I was finally leaving Okinawa, and then coming to Camp Pendleton to CLR 17. And I was like, okay, finally, I get my desk. I just want to work in air traffic control tower like my recruiter told me. And as soon as I got there, they sent me out on transition teams back to Iraq. So I was doing the whole ground thing again, So I finally got back, and then I was, I had my wife, my kids, things like that. So I was like, what, my time's done. I've already done, at this time, I'd done everything that I didn't know existed, much less existed in the Marine Corps. So I got out of the military, and I had a job back in Austin fixing cash registers. And for whatever reason, the company called me on my way. I got my wife and the kids. I got the U-Haul. My wife and kids or go back, I get a call from the company that I'm supposed to work for, and they said, we have to do away with your job. Like, sorry. So I was like, man, I just got out of the Marine Corps, just did all this rad stuff, and now I'm unemployed. What am I gonna do? So like every good Marine does, you know, I started getting drunk. So I was sitting in the garage one day, and just people watching. This guy walks by. He's like, hey, mind if I get a beer? And I was like, yeah, can't get any worse, man. Come sit down. So while we were sitting there drinking, we started talking about Blackwater, Triple Canopy, and things like that. So the next day, you know, I'm hungover, and I remember we were talking about Triple Canopy, and that just stuck with me. So I applied and ended up going back overseas with Triple Canopy. So I'm still thinking like, man, I just wanted to work in an air traffic control tower, and now I'm back in Iraq as a civilian doing the ground thing again. So I did that for 2 more years, and then finally came back, you know, back to the States. I told myself I wasn't going back overseas, so I was applying at regular jobs, you know, not really have any motivation to do anything, you know. I was like, I'm tired, I want to take a little bit of time off. The only place that called me back out of all the places that I applied at was the place that I work at now on Camp Pendleton at the Infantry Immersion Training. So I'm doing the ground thing again, but I'm just training now. So